Hello folks, hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to Holmans Homestead. Today we're going to be talking about different goat breeds. That is one of the biggest questions we get asked a lot of the times. What goat breeds be best for them? Well, that all depends. It basically comes down to whether you're wanting them for meat or you're wanting them for milk, fiber, or just to have a pet. And we'll get a little bit further in that today. It's not going to be a long video, folks. It won't take real long. So glad you joined us here. Let's get started. I hear somebody flying down the road. Yeah, we got all of our windows opened up. Ain't it been hot? Lord have mercy. But let's go ahead and get started here. And we'll start off with the meat goats first. Now we're going to start off, like I said, with the meat goats. The first one at the top of the list is Boer, B-O-E-R. And should have seen a picture of it there right before we got started with this here. I tried to get go on the website and get some pictures of different breeds of goats to show you. I'll tell you a little bit about them in a minute. They're fast growing. I mean, they're a stocky goat. There goes my phone. They're a stocky goat. If you can keep them alive. Around here, it's hard to keep them alive. Trust me, from past experience, not just me, other farmers around, but you can go to the sale, and if they bring them in, they always bring higher. Excellent meat yield. If you can keep them live, they put on pounds fast, and they got a good temperament. Now, we did have, for years, Grandpa had cattle, and we never had to have a hot stick with those cattle, but we had one full-blooded Boer Billy, and as far as me and Pop, he never did anything to us. Mom or Carolyn go up, and he'd get mean towards them. But I bought a hot stick just where if they was going to be out and he got too close, they could. I don't think they ever had to use it. But some of the cons of those, they're more expensive to buy. Trust me, from past experience, they do sell high. Where they're a bigger, they're packing on pounds, higher. Let me mute this thing right now. Don't think I got it muted. But the big thing, I think I told you before the phone went off, they eat more. The feed cost is going to be higher. And it was funny, me and Carolyn went to a goat class the other night, and the man there, he said, yeah, Boers be good if you could just keep them inside of a barn, concrete floors, and just keep pouring feed out to them, you'd probably be all right. But the Boer goat is really parasite prone. And if you think about it, we talked about this in one of the other videos. If you think about it, the Boer is from South Africa, dry climate. Okay? We talked about the parasite. They like warm, humid weather. Okay, well, you're not going to have that out in the desert. So, sure, where they come from, they probably didn't have to worry about parasites too much. But around here it was a constant worming them. But I'm not going to kick them no more. I'm sure there's people out here watching this, but they just never did in our neck of the woods do any well. And the county extension office man, he had the same thing in that goat class. But like I said, dealing from past experience, and it wasn't no particular bloodline or anything. We had we had different bloodlines, and they was all the same. All right, let's move along here. Alrighty. Next we're going to talk about is Kiko. I wished we had found them a long time ago instead of the Boer. No telling what we would have had. But the Kiko, they're good foragers. They're more parasite resistant, and they're a hardy goat. Unless there's something wrong, when that nanny has them babies, they are generally within 4 to 5 minutes standing up there eating. They do really good. Knock on wood. So far in our experience, and everybody I've talked to, ain't seen it in quite a few years. They used to down at the Appalachian Gray Fairground. They would have in September a Kiko sale where people would bring full-blooded stuff. We went to it several times, but we'd start. Now we had bought some Boer goats down there when they had their sales, but the Kiko billies, we'd looked about getting a full-blooded one time, and just it would go past our price point where we was comfortable about buying it. But so far all I've got is good things. Now we had a purebred Kiko. We had went to in Virginia several years ago. We don't have him no more. We've still got some of his blood up here, bloodline. But we have found billies after when they get to about 3 years old, if they decide they want to go over in this field or this field, they get roguish. They'll want to, so we started not hanging on to a billy. After about 2 years, we'll get rid of it there. Sorry about that, guys. Now some of the cons. They do not, the meat is a lot leaner than what the Boer is. It will, you can look, they don't look as bulky and heavy as what the Boers, but they are a meat goat. One of the cons they said on there, they can be flighty. We've not really experienced that with ours, and it may just be, for the most part, our goats is pretty much a closed herd. If we do bring something in, we generally, and that's far in between, what we'll do, we'll keep them separated for like 3 or 4 weeks just to make sure nothing shows up or anything before we introduce them into the main goat herd. You don't really, they're becoming more and more prevalent being around the Kiko. For a long time they were actually kind of hard to get. But moving on to the next goat, it's the Spanish goat. Years ago, at one of those sales that we went to, we had bought, I think it was like an 88% Spanish goat. It was a good nanny. She did real good. They are great for brush control. You know, when we say brush, the old common brush goat that used to be around years ago, that was a hardy goat. Grandpa had them, and he talked about sorry about this, guys. Grandpa had them years ago. That was before my time. He said he never had to worry about worming the goats or anything like we did once we started getting, you know, more into goats. But anyway, the Spanish goat, they're another low maintenance goat. They're sort of like the Kiko. But the only drawbacks for the Spanish, it is a meat goat. They produce less meat, and also they can be not as calm, should say. Now that would be the ones that I would say would be on the more skittish side. Just the ones I've dealt with, folks. You know, there's probably people out here that are going to say, well, you're wrong on that there. I don't know. Just my personal experience, you know. And up here in this area, I would say they're a little bit harder to get. A lot of times they'll bring them up from like Mexico. It's the Spanish. Another one I don't really know a whole lot about. They sort of look like the Boer goat, except it's solid white. The Savannah. The Savannah goat, it looks almost like a Boer goat to me without the red head. But once again, they come from South Africa. So I don't really know I don't know much about them. And once again, this here is just a small fraction of the number of goats that's out there. If you start looking up breeds of goats, great day. I would say every bit at least 50, 60, maybe 70 different breeds of goats. But like I said, we're just going to hit on the main ones today. Alrighty. Let's see. We'll move on to the dairy goats now. Now, the dairy goats. We'll start off with the Nubian. They've got a high butter fat milk. They're friendly. They're good milkers. We actually had, and I was telling that fella the other night, we know some of the cons of them. Back years ago when we had the Boer goats, I got it in my head. We seen a Nubian Billy for sale, and we went and got him. And I was gonna, for one season, put that in some of our nannies there, see what kind of kids we'd get out. Well, just to increase the milk production of the kids. Well, I don't know about the milk production. And we've still got a few. There's a couple over here in Carolyn's lot. Those things, a Nubian goat is really vocal. They can see you out. Wah, wah, or however sound they make. But, yeah. They're also, from what I understand, they are more sensitive to cold weather. And we get not as bad as, well, I ain't gonna say it, don't jinx us, Doug. It usually don't get real bad here for long stretches of time. But once again, when I got that, didn't really have a computer or anything at that time to do a lot of research on the different breeds of goats. Come to find out, they are also prone to parasites in wet, humid weather. That is one of the main things you're going to try to fight. That is going to be your biggest task, is trying to keep your goats alive. It's something a little, that is your biggest concern. That'll kill your goat quicker than anything. Alrighty, we'll move on. The Sanin, I think is what it's called. We actually popped years ago. I got to thinking he had got one of those also. There was some people, I was about 15 miles from us, 10 or 15, and went back up in there. And it didn't really do that good for us. It was also another billy. That was before we'd even got started into the Boers. But from what I understand, they're great milk goats. They are high in milk production. They're calm, easy going, easy to handle. So if you're looking for a milk goat, that might be an option. Now some of the cons for them is low butter fat. But like the Nubians, they was cold sensitive. This is on the opposite end. They are more sensitive to heat. So you need to keep that. And then they need to keep clean housekeeping. You need to keep the barns and everything like that cleaned up for them. The Alpine, another great milk goat. They're great milkers. They are relatively hardy. They're very adaptable to wherever you, whatever situation you put them in, whether, you know, they're just easy to get along with. But from what I understand, they are more independent. They got a mind of their own, should say. And once again, even with these goats up here, each goat has its own characteristics. It's just like a person. Some of these up here, they're just as tame and easy going. There's some that's been there just as long, if not longer. You go to mess with them, jump back. But once again, and you know, and from what I understand, they got a low butter fat. Alrighty, stop this just a second. And also, you got the Lamacha. If I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm butchering some of these names. Yeah, they definitely stand out. They have got unique ears. What ear you can see, they are really tiny. If you first take a glance, you would think that goat don't have no ears. They just about don't. From what I understand, they're real docile, easy, gentle, reliable milkers. Some of the cons, we fall back to the ears. Some people don't like that part there, you know. To me, wouldn't care what it looked like if it's doing, you know, everything else, that's not going to knock me out of getting that goat. The butter fat, it sort of falls in the middle. And then we also got and last but not least on our list, and there's oodles more like I've said, the Nigerian Dwarf. Now that goat actually falls in two categories. It has high butter fat milk. They're friendly. They're great for small farms, homesteads. The only cons to them, the output of the milk is less. And from what I understand, those are great escape artists. I thought ours was, from what I understand now. I've never had one. I hope here soon in the future we may be getting some. And understand they can be a little bit bossy too. So, but we'll move on here next to the dual purpose breeds. They can be for milk, meat, the Oberhause. It's kind of a hard name for me to pronounce there. They've got good milk. They can provide meat, and from what I understand, they've got sort of a quiet nature to them. A chill, you know. It's not one of the top producers of milk, and they're kind of hard to get a hold of. But the Toggenburg, from what I understand with those, the lactation period is a lot longer on those than a normal goat, dairy goat. And calm temperament. They're good in the cold. They've got a low butter fat though. And from what I understand, the milk flavor will vary. And that probably falls back to a lot of what they're eating. I know Grandpa used to talk years ago when he milked the cow and everything. He said you could tell if they got up here and got into wild onions or something, it would transfer right over to the taste of the milk. And I'd say a lot of that goes along with the feed that they're eating, the browse and stuff like that there. Let's go ahead and move on to the fiber. You've got the Angora. It produces the mohair. They're calm. They producing fiber for you. That could be an income stream. I don't know a lot about fiber goats. I don't know how hard it is to keep their coat. You know, like around here we've got cockleburs. I would hate for it come back in of evening there and be covered in them. So I'd say you'd see just sounds like a pain for this area here. Now they would be needing to be sheared. How often, I do not know. I can look it up and find out for y'all. From what I understand, they're also parasite prone. And I heard they're not quite as hardy. Then you got the Pygora. It's another fiber goat. Has good fiber. They're a little bit smaller, and you can occasionally use them as a milking goat. And but from what I understand, they have actually got to be groomed, combed out. And then also you won't be able to use those for meat, from what I understand. And then now, let's get down to the miniatures and the goats that's for pets. We'll start off with the pygmy. We actually, years ago, I think I told you when we was doing some backhoe work, that was part of the thing. Well, there was a couple pygmies come into there with that bartering, I should say. They're compact, they're small, they're fun, they're good with kids. They're smaller, they don't eat as much. But from what I understand, they're not really, you can't use them for milk or meat. And once again, they're small. They are escape artists. And you would think little short goat and everything, them damn things can jump high. And from what I understand too, we never really had that trouble. Maybe like in winter time, we don't feed as much feed through the summer because they've got plenty of other food to eat. Now, like in the winter time, they're about like me. They'll put on weight. And then the last is the Nigerian Dwarf. Like I said, it fell into both categories, and they make a great pet, great milker. So hopefully this will help you out some. I'm not going to hold you up no more. I hope you all have a blessed week. And if you liked the video, please subscribe. And in the comments, let us know what kind of goats you have or are thinking about getting. Or if you got any more questions that we might be able to answer for you. And I got a great website the other day. I'll put that in the description. That was, the man gave us that the other night at the goat class. Hopefully it'll help you all out some. Like I said, anything that we can try to do to help you out, if we can, we'll try it. Folks, hope you all have a blessed week. Stay safe, take care. Lord willing, be seeing you Wednesday. Watch out for the crazies out there. Thank y'all for watching. Y'all have a blessed day.
Down on the farm where the green grass grows, we're thankful for the love that everybody knows. It's another day under the white blue sky, with the sun shining bright and the time drifting by. Homans, Homestead, where the story unfolds, our hearts full of laughter and our memories go. Oh, thank you for watching from near and far. Your support, it brightens just like a star. Don't forget to subscribe, it's always free. Join our journey, come share the glee.